Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Big Mike Sports. We are Atlanta born, Carolina raised, Detroit driven. I'm your host, as always, Big Mike.
The one and only. Yeah, I'm back!
Always here to talk about the Lions and some other random teams that we decided to put our allegiance towards. We were trying to have an episode on Friday, kind of detailing some of the injury news that came about for the Lions, with players such as Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs being announced as out for that game. But we said a few too many times, and I didn't think it was worth posting, so sorry about that. We'll try and do better this time. Not trying to say any but anyway, I kind of tried to walk back our score prediction. We were kind of hoping that the Lions would wallop on the Panthers, and with all the injuries, kind of wanted to maybe make it more like a 20-6, like Falcons type game for the final score for this game. But the Lions went out there and they exceeded expectations anyway. Even the high expectations that I put for the score in the first preview of the game, I said 38 to 21. It looked like it was going to be like 38 to 20 for a little while there, but the Lions put up some points in garbage time to make it 42 to 24, the final score. The Panthers put up some points in garbage time as well. Of course, a lot of people are saying that garbage time started sometime in the second quarter when the Lions went up 28-7. But the Lions ended up doing exactly what we wanted them to do. Once again, it's been kind of a theme this year. It's funny. The team has done a lot of the stuff that like I would do if I was running the team, so I might as well be running the team at this point.
It seems to me like you're the expert.
But the Lions set the tone, and they did it early, pounding the rock with David Montgomery, throwing it around to a lot of their weapons, but Sam Laporta being the big one with his 2 touchdown receptions. It kind of went exactly the way that Coach Dan Campbell said it would, with the team relying on that running game and spreading it around to all the players that they do have, in lieu of some of their big name weapons being out. Big David Montgomery game. I'm kind of surprised he didn't go for even more yards than what he got. Ended up with 19 carries, 109 yards, and 1 touchdown on the ground. Good for 5.7 a carry. But I guess they decided to give him a little bit of rest and went with Craig Reynolds, who ended up carrying the ball really nicely, 7 carries for 52 yards and a touchdown of his own. He looked really good running the ball. The offensive line was opening up some huge holes in that zone running game, and it's kind of a shame that Jahmyr Gibbs didn't end up playing because I think he would have done really well, but he'll be able to go next week, hopefully. Montgomery broke the game open to start with a 42-yard touchdown run to go up 7-0, and then Laporta had his 2 touchdowns, one on a trick play, a long bomb, to go up 28-7 for the Lions. It's a play that they stole from the 49ers. The 49ers ran a similar reverse play. I'm not sure if it was earlier in the year or last year, but that's where they got it from. And then the offense spread the ball out to 8 different receivers. The defense continues to play well. Will Harris stepped in very nicely to replace the injured Brian Branch. And Mosley, I think it's Emmanuel Mosley, the often injured corner that came over from the 49ers. He tried to get in there, but only 2 plays in, he ended up hurting his other knee and is feared to be out for the season once again. Really tough turn for that guy. We were really hoping that he would be able to get in there and make something happen because you really feel for him. He's a good player. We really wanted to go out there and make some plays, but that turf monster will get you sometimes. Is that non-contact injury, just planted his foot wrong and his ACL gave out, I guess. He'll have some MRIs today. Not quite sure of the status there, but he is feared to be out for the year. And the pass rush continuing to get pressure. Only 1 sack being tallied from Aiden Hutchinson, but Hutchinson also added that interception. 4 interceptions so far in his career. I believe that is the most for a defensive lineman to start their career in NFL history. And then Jerry Jacobs got in on the interception fun as well, continuing his streak of interceptions and making up for some of those defensive pass interference calls that he was famous for, or infamous for rather, in the earlier season. And also J-Mo got a little bit of some looks. He got a couple screens. Didn't really go anywhere. He stumbled on one that looked like he could have ran for a little while. But he'll get opened up even more as the season goes along. Dan Campbell talking about how he just wanted to get him on the field, get him used to running, get him used to the NFL action once again. He also blocked really well in the running game, which was good to see. That was a point of emphasis that they were really trying to instill in J-Mo. If you want the ball, you got to block. And the zone running game, as I said before, looked absolutely incredible. Massive holes being opened up by the Lions' offensive line. The Panthers' defense, run defense, not the greatest, and it showed. They were able to open up some huge lanes. Derek Brown was able to make a little bit of noise at certain points in the game, and then Brian Burns ended up with one sack after a little while, which, it's inevitable with Brian Burns whether he'll get that sack. It's only a matter of time. But mostly not a whole lot going for the Panthers defense there. Um, the line set up well for the next matchup against the Buccaneers, as their star players will end up getting healthy, and team keeps rolling. Depth on the team, looking very dependable. Just keep stacking wins. I mean, it looks like the Lions could compete with anybody in the NFL, really. The Cowboys suddenly don't look as daunting in that end of the year matchup after they lost last night to the 49ers in just grave fashion, 42-10 blowout. The Cowboys looking like they were the Giants or something out there. So the Lions look like they can compete with anybody right now, and it really bodes well for the rest of the year because you're going in with a lot of confidence. You don't think that anybody can really beat you. The only team that can really beat you is yourselves, basically, if they can keep executing like this. So really, really inspiring run for the Lions, and suddenly they're serious contenders. Like, no more talk, no more just dreaming about it. They are contenders right now. Definitely a top three team in the NFC. It's them, the Eagles, and the 49ers. And I mean, if they matched up with the 49ers or the Eagles, I honestly think that the Lions could win maybe 50% of the time. So it's really a coin flip between them and the top teams in the NFC. Time will tell if they can continue this run. But right now, at this very moment, it looks like the Lions could make a deep run in the playoffs and challenge for the NFC Championship and even the Super Bowl. Now, on the Panthers side, some things that I did like from them. First of all, some very interesting run plays for the Panthers. Laviska Shenault, they made some really creative ways of giving him the ball in space. There were some of these handoffs that looked like they were inspired by the triple option offense. A shout out to Paul Johnson at Georgia Tech there back in the 2010s. Zavola, the guard for the Panthers, Chandler Zavala, NC State grad, went down with a neck injury. Didn't exactly see what happened. It was kind of, in a cloud of dust with a bunch of bodies around. But yeah, not a good look for him. He ended up going to a local Detroit hospital. Movement in all the extremities and all that stuff. He gave a thumbs up as he left the field on the stretcher. And so good news for him that he's able to hopefully come back and play. But right now, it's just his health that matters. So good news for him being able to recover from that. The love for Thielen continues as Bryce Young continues to feed him the ball. The Panthers got into a little bit of play action, which is what I wanted to see from them on their end. Not as much as maybe they could have, especially in the deep passing game. But Thielen continues to be the one who really runs this offense. Jonathan Mingo got 7 targets, so he's a nice little second option there if he's able to open it up a little more. Yeah, Thielen just eating up those targets, doing really well in fantasy. Kind of a surprising player there. He seems to be the only one that's really doing well with the Panthers offense, although Bryce Young, I kind of did like what I saw from him, keeping some poise. Of course, he had a couple of interceptions, but those are just rookie mistakes, basically. But you like the poise to keep, trying to score there after being down so much because, you could definitely quit with it being 28-7 at halftime. You could definitely quit and just, not really want to do anything else, just kind of go through the motions. But Bryce Young finishing with 3 touchdown passes in that game after only having 2 in the 3 games previous, or was it 4 games previous? I don't know. The point of the matter is Bryce Young did not get a whole lot of touchdowns over the course of the season, but in this game he kind of opened it up a little bit, was able to get the 3 touchdowns, especially against this Lions defense. Not necessarily the greatest pass defense, but taking what you can get there, definitely a good sign for him. I'd like to see him continue to kind of open up and ball out a little more because the Panthers will definitely need it. I mean, they'll have some games against the Bears and maybe the Vikings that they could potentially win, but it would take a lot from Bryce Young and a lot from that defense as well in order to pull that out. But not the worst sign in the world. Of course, the Lions' offense is just a lot to handle if you're the Panthers' defense, but it could have gone a lot worse for the Panthers. Some people were saying 40-6 kind of thing. But putting up 24 against this defense is not a bad job at all, uh, even though a lot of it came in garbage time. But that's what garbage time is for, to make people look a little better. And Dan Campbell's saying that the Lions are finally understanding what it takes to win. And I think that's pretty obvious. Like I said before, once you kind of start doing it, it gets easier as you go. You kind of figure out how to do it, how to put together wins. There's definitely a formula to winning. Not that, it's just wash, rinse, and repeat. Uh, you have to do this in order to win in the NFL. But, winning and losing are habits. And, you can build the good habits that can keep you winning, or you can build the bad habits that keep you losing. It's important to, stay even keel. But really good signs for the Lions being able to, play with the lead now, finally, after that had been such an issue in years previous. It's good to see the Lions kind of get the monkey off their backs there. And, people thinking that this game could possibly be competitive, which I was kind of fearful of. Being able to kind of shut the door on that. The game was never quite competitive. Just overall, very good look from them. The Lions' turnover differential is now positive, a +1. It was -2, so that's another good sign, as Jared Goff is able to keep it clean in this game after throwing an interception in 3 straight games. Kind of surprised that they were able to win as much as they did, with turnovers being a little bit of an issue there. But as has been said, Goff, after each one of those turnovers, was able to come back and battle back with a touchdown after those, so that really made the difference. Now the only thing is to keep it clean all the time, and also keep the touchdowns coming. So yeah, also the turnovers forced by the Lions defense are turning into points almost every time. So that's another really good sign when both sides are able to play complementary football like that. You want points off turnovers. It's really, really important. That's what will win you games more times than not, is both winning the turnover battle and scoring points off the turnovers that your defense is forced. So really good stuff from the Lions. They'll look to continue this kind of magical season run. Yeah, just the one home loss against the Seahawks, and the Seahawks being a good team as well. And I kind of not necessarily pass that off as being early season, but you might not had everything completely together when you were coming off of that kind of emotional high of beating the Chiefs. It can kind of come back to haunt you a little bit the next week if you're not prepared. But it's important as kind of a learning thing to have that loss. I don't think that they would have, like, that loss would have happened at some point against some team. So might as well just get it out of the way against the Seahawks there, and then take the momentum and take the lessons that you learned, and move forward for the rest of the season. So really good stuff for the Lions, continuing to look like they'll be able to win 12 or 13 games hopefully. Yeah, they can contend with anybody. It would take a lot for this momentum to turn back around and bring them down, but hopefully they'll be able to ride the wave and keep it going into the playoffs and beyond. Yeah! Continuing on our little victory tour is another improbable win by Georgia Tech.
It's indescribably beautiful.
Able to snag a victory out of thin air, seemingly. Of course, we all remember that victory against Florida State a few years ago, where they returned a blocked field goal for a game-winning touchdown. This time, it was the other team kind of fumbling the bag a little bit, as Miami, Florida, instead of kneeling down to end the game, they try and run the ball, which ends up turning into a fumble as they put the ball on the ground. Georgia Tech recovering, and then the improbable 44-yard touchdown pass with triple zeros on the clock to end the game. They're saying that Miami was probably trying to pad some stats at the end, but if that's the case, like, why didn't you play a little better earlier in the game? I mean, at halftime, with that game being 3-0, kind of knew that it was going to be an interesting finish with Georgia Tech being able to keep it close and definitely covering. Didn't really think that they would be able to win outright, especially at the end when Miami it sort of looked like they were pulling away a little bit. But somehow Georgia Tech able to storm right back and grab the victory out of nowhere. So yeah, after losing to 22-point underdog Bowling Green after going to 14-0 in that game, it's pretty crazy that Georgia Tech was able to engineer a win there at the last second against Miami. They're always good for wins like this, though, at some point, where they're playing spoiler and they ruin somebody's season. Always a kind of a dangerous team. Always going to try and battle against the higher competition any way that they can. They'll have North Carolina coming to town. I'm pretty sure they play that game in Atlanta, so that'll be a tough one for North Carolina. UNC always has trouble with Georgia Tech for whatever reason, so that'll be kind of a dangerous potential trap game there for them. Georgia Tech always playing up to the competition. They have some other ranked road wins under Coach Brent Key as well. They were able to tally 2 last year. So yeah, if you're a ranked team on the road, or a ranked team at home rather, and Georgia Tech is traveling to come play you, you better watch out because they'll sneak up on you every now and then. They go up to 3-3 after that tough loss, and they could potentially carry that momentum forward for the rest of the season, which would be nice. They do have a shot at potentially hitting a bowl game, getting to 6-6, which would be exciting to see as the program tries to take some new steps from the depths of where they were under Jeff Collins. So yeah, Georgia Tech battling back. Hopefully they'll make it back to relevance at some point, maybe next year or the year after. I don't know how much eligibility Haynes King has, but he's also making a little bit of noise. Not the greatest. I mean, there are some times where he has some issues holding on the ball too long and stuff like that. Namely that fumble against Louisville, which if they had beaten Louisville at the beginning of the year, that would have made Georgia Tech look really good. But instead, they fumbled that game away at the end. Louisville remains undefeated, trying to make some noise in the ACC. Interesting look there. I guess we'll go over some ACC stuff maybe next time. But very interesting conference this year. It's anybody's game, really. And stuff like this happening is just what makes college football fun.
To this day!
Quick note about the Dolphins before we head out. The Dolphins passed the greatest show on turf for the most yards through first 5 games of a season in NFL history. Dolphins currently putting up 513.6 yards per game. That is a little bit higher than that 2000 Rams team that went to the Super Bowl. So maybe the same thing in store for Miami. We'll have to see. Devin Achane, the electric rookie running back, who is getting 12 yards per carry on the season right now. He actually was just announced is going to be dealing with a knee injury. So hopefully he'll be able to come back and keep playing this year. It'd be a shame if he got shut down after such an electric run there. And then Tajay Spears, the other rookie running back out of Tulane, who is another electric guy in college that we liked in the draft. He also scored a touchdown on a little trick play. I think it was a little sweep. So good stuff for these electric running backs. I was always interested in Achane and Spears. We ended up with Gibbs, and Jerry's still out on Gibbs. I think he'll be able to break out at some point, especially with that O-line blocking the way that they did last week. But yeah, hopefully Achane will be able to continue playing this year, especially if you have him in fantasy. Great sleeper in fantasy. I have him in one league, so really hoping for a speedy return for him. And we'll see if that Miami offense can keep it going and potentially make a Super Bowl run. They are still one of the hottest teams in the NFL, and that offense is just a lot of fun to watch. So hope they make it to the Super Bowl, honestly, because that would make the game that much more exciting. So yeah, get well soon, Mr. Achane, and we'll see you guys next time.